Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I'm getting near the end of my gay movie marathon, and I've been saving the best for last. One of my favourite all-time gay Australian films is Head On, starring Alex Dimitriadis and Paul Capsis. It's from the book Loaded. I still have all the merch. I saw it in the cinema back in the day, which is where I stole this poster from Cinema Nova. Came out August 13, 1998, very close to Madonna's birthday. I, of course, bought the VHS. I watched that. I bought a foreign DVD which had some information on the inside, which is rare to have anything printed on the inside of DVD covers anymore. Even had a little flyer, which I love that it's actually promoting also one of their other film releases, which is Trick, which is one of my other favourite gay films of all time. Then they did a special edition which had a slipcover, and that was pretty much accurate to how the film, I think, appeared in the cinema. But then later they did another Blu-ray and DVD release from Umbrella Media, and this is what I watched tonight. I didn't realise the difference in the film. Basically, there's no film grading or colour or anything, because the original film was very saturated, very dark, really strong blues, really strong warm tones and that. This one, it looks like it was shot yesterday in like bright lighting. You can see everything, and I mean everything. The masturbation scene, I have never seen everything before because it's always been partly in shadow, so that was interesting. I have the soundtrack. It has a great soundtrack. I used to listen to that all the time. The film was made in 1997. It was released in 1998. It made a few million at the box office. It did okay. It's basically about a 19-year-old Greek-Australian kid, Ari, who's gay. He is basically 24 hours of his life, a little bit more than 24 hours of his life. It starts off, he's at a reception centre. One of his cousins is getting married, so it's a Greek wedding. He's doing the Greek dancing and everything. He leaves. He goes to a beat or something. Then he goes and crashes at his dad's place. It's weird because I lived in Brunswick at the time, and they filmed around Brunswick and a lot of locations in Melbourne. So it's a bit of a time capsule in some ways, and it was weird at the time seeing all these places that I knew and recognised on the big screen, and then looking back now at it 25 years later, it's really strange. Like the reception centre he leaves, I used to walk past that on my way home, up Sydney Road. There's some of the street there that I recognise and that. When he goes to his brother's house, he gets up the next morning, there's posters on the walls. There were posters I had on my walls at the time that I got from places and that, like the Astor Theatre calendar for that year is up, and I still have that and stuff. He meets a guy called Sean who's just moved in with his brother and his girlfriend, and he's interested. They talk. Madonna comes up, of course. He recognises the fact that she was the first woman who seemed to be proud of flashing off her. I'm not going to use the language he uses. And he sort of goes his separate ways, and he actually takes him to the tram stop that used to be on the tram line that I used to get from Brunswick into the city. So I recognise that as well. He ends up hanging around with people. He does take a lot of drugs. I didn't realise how much drugs he does in this film. For some reason, that sort of that just went over my head. It's like a lot of the Greek issues, a lot of the cultural issues I don't really get because I'm very white and very Australian and was raised in a very white town. It wasn't very multicultural like in the cities and that. And he goes around all these different places, these little Greek coffee shops and stuff like that, and I think he ends up at the Victoria Market. He hooks up with this big Asian guy. He has a close relationship with his friend Johnny, who is, I believe, trans, played by Paul Capsis. I'm not sure he's trans because sometimes he's Johnny, sometimes he's Tula. So it could be drag, I'm not sure, but Paul is amazing, and I've always wanted to meet him. There's a line he has in the film where Johnny says it's being too much, and he says, never, ever say anything is too much. I love that line. I'd love to meet him. I've never met him. I've never met Alex. I always thought I would. but probably for the best because I would have embarrassed myself. I've been in love with this character for 25 years. God, it's just like he just keeps going through all these scenarios. He fights with his dad. His dad wants him to do something because he's not working, he's not studying. His brother's getting married to a girl. They've offered him a house. He's sort of being the good brother. He goes to his auntie's place and she reads the tea leaves and see that he's met someone and someone who wants to take care of him, but he's not facing him. And she says, I saw the face. And she realizes that he's gay. And it's very confronting and an interesting scene. He makes plans to go out with his parents that night and then go out with his sister later. So they go to this house party. He's kind of weird with his brother's girlfriend. He's kind of flirting with her. He goes down on a female friend of his who he calls a dyke and a lesbian. I don't know. She's very aggressive. I don't know what she's about. They go to another club where there's a lot of people arguing about politics. Sean's there. Tula shows up, and this was, I think, one of the clubs that my sister worked at that they actually filmed at. She's not in it because they got the night off, but I recognised that as well. I'm trying to remember the events and the sequence they go in. Tula shows up and she performs. Johnny is angry because he feels that she is causing a lot of the trouble, that he keeps telling her, why can't you just shut up for the first time in your life, just shut up. Because they're going out to a club, and this is the only thing that ages this film. When the taxi driver asks where they're going, she says, Free Faces, honey. And it's like, Free Faces is gone. Free Faces was sort of the moment sort of club. It was Market, then it was Free Faces, then it was Market. In the book, they go to Peel because Ari would go to Peel, and Peel is still around and still kicking. So it does date the film. But then where they go, they did film some scenes in Free Faces, including one of the booths where I met one of the first guys I ever slept with, which is just weird to see that place. To see someone you sort of lived in sort of be in a film. But they sort of make this one giant club out of like Club 80, and I think it's like Club 80, but it's like Free Faces, but it's like an amalgamation. He sort of goes from dancing to hooking up in a back room, and then he ends up, before they get to the club, sorry, I forgot, there's a disturbing scene with the police where they're pulled over on the way to the club, and of course they beat the shit out of Johnny because she's trans. There's some weird moments in that are almost kind of funny but not. There's a moment where Tula says to the cop, who's totally racist and totally homophobic, he calls her sugar, and he's like, don't sugar me, cunt. And just the delivery of that line is just chilling and disturbing and funny at the same time because you know they're in trouble. And this little Greek guy who is just trying really hard to be hard on them like the other cop, and that comes into play as well, and they end up literally beating the hell out of her and kicking her, and he puts a gun to Alex, and he basically dares him to do something, which he doesn't, and then they leave, they go their separate ways. He wants to go with Tula, but she's like, Tula can take care of herself, and she leaves him standing on the street basically saying, what could I have done? So he goes out by himself. That's where he goes through the club. He buys drugs. He dances. He goes out the back. He ends up meeting up with Sean, the guy from earlier. They go back to his place. But because he's a self-destructive idiot, after this guy tells him he loves him, which he met him that morning, but you got to forget some of that stuff. He then fucks his face so hard that he basically comes back at him, and then he hits him, they end up fighting. He knocks Ari to the bed and smacks the shit out of him and then kicks him out, and he ends up in the hall naked with his clothes, just saying I'm sorry. Then the next morning he's out on the Docklands, which is no longer there. The warehouses where I went to, things like Sin Millennium, it's no longer there anymore. And he basically ends the film basically saying, very nihilistic, like, I'm not going to change the world, no one's going to remember me. I think the last line is, I'm a sailor and a whore and I will be to the end of the world. It's a great film. I love it. I love this character. I want to know where he is now at 45. I want to know what happened in the life of this character. Trick nearly got a sequel, nearly got a Trick 2. They're doing a sequel to Priscilla. I want a sequel to this film. I want to know what happened to Ari. I want him to have a happy ending on some level. But it's an interesting film. It's a great film. I really want to meet the actors who are in it. I can't believe I haven't. Still got all my merch. I just really loved watching this film again, and to see it in this kind of print, it does lose some of the atmosphere and some of the feeling that the color and the, but you can see everything, and it's really interesting. He does do full frontal nudity, and there's some interesting sex scenes, and there are also some really vague ones where they just focus on his reaction and one side of it, but I guess it was one-sided. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the film if you've seen it. If you haven't, see it. It's great.